Welcome, this is Feather Gardens Aviary. My name is Missy, and I'm just going to do a quick intro on how to take care of baby ducklings should you get some as a rescue. So these came into our aviary a couple days ago. They were found in someone's backyard, but we did check into them. They are actually a domesticated breed, so we're going to try and rehome them into people with ponds, that kind of thing. But if not, they will be reintroduced back into the wild. So what we've done is set up a pool for playtime, which is what they're in right now. And they've just finished eating a bunch of greens and playing and having fun. What we do is we go ahead and just use a kid pool, fill it with water deep enough that they can actually paddle and learn to swim. And we do have it gated in just to keep dogs and whatnot from getting in to play with them. In the little bowl, you're going to see some duck crumbles just for them to snack on, but we did put greens floating in the water for them to play with and have as a treat. We do keep the stones in there. As you see, they're just stepping stones you can get from any hardware store. And we stack them up so that they can actually climb out of the water right about the level of the water, and that way they can get out to prevent things like hypothermia from being in for too long. Even though they have the down feathers, they are not quite as waterproof as adults would be, so they need to keep their warmth, so they won't be in the water all the time. They do need to be out of the water and in a brooder most of the day, but they do come out about 2 to 3 times a day to come play, learn to swim, have fun, be ducks, you know, that kind of thing. Okay, so here is their brooder that we set up. Inside of it's either a chicken or duck feeder, however you want to call it. You can get these at Tractor Supply. They're pretty cheap. But inside of it is duck crumbles. We use the Do More brand for poultry. They do need the crumble sized for the babies. Inside of here is their grit. It is a non-calcium based grit. This is the package here that we use. Do More Poultry insoluble grit. It's actually a granite crumbles that they can use to grind up should they ingest their bedding, anything like that that they can't naturally digest. It actually helps them. It stays in their body to help grind up the insoluble foods that they can't quite grind up themselves. So, and then the water feeder, this is actually the same one. You just flip the base over and it turns it into water so that doesn't come out too fast. So this is one way that you can set them up during the day or at night, especially is when I use it, this setup. And we do have a grate that we just kind of put over. We've actually just kind of used these from other spare bird part store that we will put them in. And then they're metal, so we can actually put their heat lamp on and keep them warm during the day. Like I said, we want to keep them from getting hypothermia, especially if you have an air-conditioned house that you're temporarily keeping them in until they're ready to go outside. In our case, we have a lot of predators outside, so their best chance of safety is actually to be inside with controlled temperatures to keep them warm enough. So what we're going to do is go ahead and put these babies in their cage. However, another option before I do that you can do to allow them to swim and play during the day, I wouldn't suggest it at night, is the way we have it set up here is how I have it every night. But what we'll do is we put in a bowl of water, and we'll generally float some lettuce in there, usually organic lettuce, to let them swim and play during the daytime. But like I said, we do use the water feeder during the evening and when they're not generally attended to. So we're going to go ahead and put our ducklings in. And these domesticated ducks are generally kept by people for their eggs. They actually make really good eggs. To me, they're actually better than chicken eggs. Infertile, of course. However, these are all males except for one female. The last one we're putting in there is actually the female. She's a little lighter in color, you can see. And they'll actually kind of just make sure they have a good corner to play in. You know, they're going to soil that area the most, so that area has to be cleaned out from the bedding at least once or twice a day, minimum. If they soil it a lot, especially if you have more ducklings, then you definitely want to be able to change it a little more often. What we use is any kind of just pine shavings. I would not recommend the paper shavings, only because they will occasionally try to eat the bedding, and the paper is less digestible than the wood is with the grit. So as you see, I've moved the grit over out of the way. A lot of times you'll find them sleeping in it, and they're going to eat that crumble throughout the day, and that's kind of their, you'll see them taking naps. They'll pile up, curl up for heat. They'll share body heat, but they generally will use a flock mentality where one goes, the rest of them generally will try to follow. And like I said, we'll float greens in here, and throughout the day you'll see them hopping in to play and eat and take little snacks. The greens are not a source of full nutrients for these ducklings. They do need duckling crumbles. If for some reason that you cannot get any at your local farm supply or tractor supply store, you can get the chicken crumbles, but you have to have an extra mineral, and that mineral is called niacin. You can get that as a supplement if necessary. I believe the tractor supply has it. But usually the tractor supply, they always have the duck crumbles. It's not usually a problem. Like I said, we do use the Do More brand as well. I've found great results with them, and their cost is fairly reasonable. And there they are, stretching, trying to get warm, getting the water off of them from their bath. And they will kind of do their thing for the rest of the day. We will take them out again to have their playtime, get their exercise, learn to swim, practice. And there's that one sitting in the grit. There's always one in the grit. Don't ask me why. But you do want to have a feeder specifically for poultry or waterfowl. And the reason being is if you just put it in a bowl, you know, like a low-lying dog bowl kind of dish, they will all sit in it, soil in it, and the next thing you know, you have a bacteria issue and your birds are dropping. So you have to keep their food clean, keep the mold and mildew down. They're going to drop the water all over that bedding. So like I said, 2 to 3 times a day, we go through and actually clean that bedding out, refresh it. And then we do a once every 2 or 3 days cleaning of their brooder bin with bleach water solution, about 1/3 cup of bleach to a gallon of water mixed up. Spray it down really good, rinse it out really well, dry it, make sure that you know, everything, all the bleach is out of there, and that does the disinfecting and kills any mold or mildew spores that could be in there. And keep them as healthy as possible. Keeping them dry when they're not playing in the water is very important for their health. So also keeping them warm. And you can see this duck, she will actually use that, he will actually use that water as his drinking water source, and but he'll also play in it, swim in it. So that water, if you do use a bowl of water like this or a dish of water, I would recommend changing it out at least once or twice a day. But I would not, like I said, leave it in all night long, because it will get soiled throughout the night. They're going to go in and play in it and poop in it, and we don't want to have a bacteria issue. So what we're going to do is go ahead and put their grates back on, and only because, yes, they can actually climb. I've seen them climb a brick wall before, halfway up of the house. With their webbed feet, they can actually kind of hook on pretty good. And they will try to jump out if your bin is too low. You can see ours is fairly tall. It's a very deep bin. And that way we can hopefully prevent them from trying to jump out. But we do use the grate just in case. We want to just keep them safe. And then we put their brooder on for heat. And having it up high like that actually keeps them from overheating. And you generally want to be it on one side to where they can actually get out of the heat, you know, if they get overheated. But they can curl up underneath that heat source to stay warm if they get cold. And that is generally what we do with our duck rescues. And please don't forget to subscribe and follow us. We will hopefully be getting more help for your birds, whether it's a rescue, pet birds, that type of thing. This is going to be our first of hopefully very many guides to come.